Dr. Judy here, Dr. Judy WTF. What the Freud are we doing with narcissists? And what the Freud are we doing repeating patterns in our lives that we obviously know will result in chaos, defenses, and breakdowns? And if you are tuned into the show, then you obviously know that being around narcissists, working with a narcissist, being married to one, having one as a significant other, family members that are narcissistic wreak havoc on your life. So, how to survive working with a narcissist? So, I'm going to give you the short answer and then I'll give you the long answer. The short answer is please don't if you don't have to. Okay, that's the short answer. And the long answer is if your paycheck depends on it, then we need to put together a plan on how to survive working with a narcissist because I understand that some people have to go to work, get the paycheck, come home, and remain in as emotionally intact as possible and not be triggered by the situation and not get sick by the situation. So let's start here and say that narcissists make us sick. Why? Because they take more than they give. Now, let's go through the mind map so I can explain this a little bit more succinctly. So, there is the mind map, and the mind map is a pathway to healing. And the pathway involves taking a look at childhood wounds that are represented in panel one by those dark spots on the light. So the light represents our health, our mental, physical, spiritual health. The dark spots are all the shadows that shadow over us and bring us down and compromise our emotional and spiritual and physical health. Now, in the case of narcissism, it does root back to a childhood wound, and that childhood wound usually comes in two extremes. One is that they are terribly spoiled. They're the golden child. They are really groomed to meet the needs of the parents. And if they do meet the needs of the parent, and if they are good soldiers, they get brownie points for it, and then they get the crown on the head. So they get the golden crown on the head for compliance with a terrible system gone wrong, perpetrated by the parents that are also victims of their own childhood abuse and neglects. And this is multi generational. For those of you who do not know, this is a multi generational system gone wrong, which we are here to expose and correct and heal from so you don't have to do the what the Freud, which is the perpetuation of the system gone wrong. So that's one way narcissism is created by terrible spoiling, meaning that they don't have to have any earnership. They just gain by not really being more than compliant to the parents' wishes, demands, needs, and their narcissistic supplies that they're trying to fill through their child. The other way is that children of narcissists usually come from a family that emotionally neglected them. So, if there's extreme emotional disconnect and neglect, then that's another breeding ground for narcissism. So, if you are either in a place where you have to people please um, your parents in order to gain favor from them, then that would probably put you in a position where narcissists would be very attracted to you because you're the perfect candidate. You're going to be at a deficit. Your core beliefs are going to sound something like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not this enough, and I'm not that enough. Therefore, I'm not worthy. Therefore, I'm not worth much salary wise. And you see how this can go into areas where you will low ball yourself and play a lower bar in the game of life um, in order to people please and think that you're going to get somewhere through the people pleasing process. So if you're the people pleaser, you're probably the perfect candidate for signing up for a narcissistic relationship or even a narcissistic boss. Narcissistic bosses do not like pushback. They are not interested in something that I refer to as synergy, which is represented by my panel 7. So I'm skipping panels here, but if you look at panel number 7, you will see here the synergy panel, which is 1 plus 1 is greater than 2. You'll see the light in the center, and this is about cooperation. This is about valuing another person. This is about trust and putting your energy together with another human being so that something bigger can be created. In the case of narcissism, the only bigger that can be created is to blow up the narcissist's self-image, bank account, and other narcissistic needs, compliments, so on and so forth. So you can see that it's not a good deal. So if you're working with a narcissist, how do you prevent yourself from breaking down? How do you survive a narcissistic boss? Well, interestingly enough, this is always the case in my life, I get live examples from people who come to see me every day about their narcissistic bosses. And the one that came into my consciousness today are how narcissistic bosses will not even ask their employees, "How are you? Good morning. How are you doing? How's your wife? I remember you're telling me that she's in the hospital. Is she okay?" So there is no we. Okay? I think for most of you who've listened to my show, you understand that in narcissism, it's about me, and me against you, and me extracting as much as possible from you, and no we at all, because we in a narcissist world means that I have to give up myself, which is very, very special and very precious. And why should I give up myself when I can take from you and have more for myself? And I don't care if there's less for you, because I really don't have empathy. I really don't care. So this is a call-in show, everyone. You know I love call-ins, so please do that. 323-524-2599, and we can get some live examples about how to survive a narcissistic boss. So I'll go back to my first point. If you don't need to be there, please don't. If you can extract yourself from the situation, then you can stay there if you need that paycheck, and then make other plans. Point being, don't lose your day job until you can replace it. And hopefully it'll incentivize you to replace the miserable job that you're in, because I'm sure by the end of the day, you'll be walking home feeling less than and drained and tired, maybe muscle aches, headaches, stomach aches, back pains, lower back pains, all kinds of pains. And we know now, through many, many years of research, about the mind-body connection. And we know that the mind and the body are so deeply connected that when we are not feeling well psychologically, it's going to wreak havoc on our body. So you've got to evaluate what you're feeling, how you're feeling, what the consequences are on your life, as your trade-off for working with a narcissist. So maybe let's get some examples going. And by the way, if you want to call in and give me your own examples, I would very much appreciate and welcome that. So let's say you're working for a narcissist and you're making tons of money working for that narcissist, but you're paying a price. And I have treated people like this, people who have to succumb to all kinds of narcissistic abuse and all kinds of boundary violations, which I want to address also Because guess who's allowing for the boundary violations? You guessed it, the person working for the narcissist. Why? Because of their own childhood wounds and boundary violations. And why else? Because they're getting a paycheck. So there's a secondary gain. So here's what I recall. I'll just call it case number 9,000 something or other. I remember a young lady that I treated many, many years ago, and she was complaining about how her boss called her in the middle of the night and on weekends, and how he would rant and rage if she didn't pick up the phone and she didn't deliver exactly at the snap of his fingertips. Well, this got worse and worse. The more she complied, guess what he did? Exactly. He upped the ante. He wanted more and more, because the thing about narcissism is that there is a hole in the soul of the narcissist. And that person needs to fill the hole in the soul by a narcissistic supply of time, energy, compliments, sex, drugs, rock and roll, anything that you can think of. But don't think that there isn't a hole in the soul in the people pleaser, because there is. And the people pleaser also, because that person needs their hole in the soul filled, will comply with the narcissistic system. So let me answer that question. How can I differentiate between, go ahead.
So we have a question. How can I differentiate between someone who has strong self-confidence and someone who is a narcissist?
Because a person who has strong self-confidence will make you a better person. How's that for an answer? Okay. Somebody has strong self-confidence, they have light and they want to share it, and working with them will enhance your life. And somebody who's narcissistic will take from you and you will feel it. So that's my best answer. And please feel free to call in so we could discuss this. I'll read the question again so I can make sure I didn't leave anything out. How can I distinguish the difference between self-confidence and narcissism? Well, let's say somebody's very self-confident and they're demanding from you. Why are they demanding from you? Is it because you're withholding from them? So I think step number one is self-reflect and self-correct. And if that person is confident enough to demand what they're paying for, that's not narcissism. They're just demanding what you agreed upon is the job description. So that's fair. If they're insulting, demeaning, devaluing, destroying, threatening to fire you without reason, not giving you a hand at growing yourself and gaining skills, that's not a good sign. Okay, so a confident person has enough light to better him or herself and make you a better person as well. You will feel it. It's called synergy. 1 + 1 is greater than 2. So being around a confident person allows you to grow. Being with a narcissist is going to demean, devalue, and destroy you. And at the end, they'll probably discard you anyway. So, and not thank you for the supply. So I hope that answers the question, and I'd love somebody to call in and maybe give an example from their life of how they deal with a narcissistic boss. And look, I get it. I've had narcissistic bosses. I usually can't stay for very long because I feel it too deeply in my body. I absorb the pain, and then I can't anymore because I personally get sick. And mine shows up in a very somatic way: backache, neck ache, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness. It's not good. Okay, so I'm devoted to being with growth partners, which is why my logo, see my logo right here on my card, is synergy. That's the logo. All right, 1 + 1 is greater than 2. And then there's the light in the center that's supposed to happen as a result of the we, the better we. Now, why don't narcissists have a concept of a we? It all goes back to the childhood wound of narcissistic parents and narcissistic injuries. The parents never taught them a we because they stole from their own children. They stole their self esteem, they stole their plans for the future and made it about them. They even stole their money and borrowed money from their own children and didn't pay it back. They stole their preferences and told them who to marry, how to run their life, what kind of business to go into. So there never was a push toward separation and individuation and autonomy in their children because separation meant that they would lose the supply. And that's not what narcissists want. They want forever slaves. They like to sign people up so that they will keep on giving. And that's how they might bribe them with love bombing or big salaries or big bonus. But you've got to take inventory on what your real price tag is. So you might say, wow, I've never had such a prestigious job ever. I've never made so much money ever, but I've never had the need to go to therapy as much as now. What's going on? How come my marriage is stressed? How come I have no time for my children? How come I have no time on the weekends just to unwind? Well, I think one of the ways to survive working with a narcissistic boss is first take inventory on the price tag. Okay, so even though the salary is a is part of the price that you're getting, the fee that you're getting, you may be paying a much higher price. And please pay attention to that. Okay, and then also pay attention to how the rest of the team is going because narcissistic bosses tend to create sibling rivalry, just like narcissistic parents. In this case, they tend to create rivalry among the coworkers. So if there's a lack of unity, a lack of harmony, a lack of teamwork, then you know that something's up and the environment that you're in is not a healthy environment. And although competition can be great, this is a competition that is destructive and destroys other coworkers who are working or supposedly working alongside you. And if you look at panel number 4, you will see what happens here. So I'm going to use panel 4 as a metaphor. So instead of having a bonded, structured job, leader, system, working system, you don't have that at all. You've got chaos because you've got one person taking up all the air in the room and the other people flying off into the ozone and not really having any structure that they need to make themselves climb up the evolutionary scale. So again, this is a call-in show, everyone. Please do call in. Okay, another question. Although I'd rather you call in with the questions. I think I'm spoiling you.
I know, right?
Turning my audience into narcissists. They could just throw questions at me without. Okay, guilty. All right, I'll answer the question and then hopefully somebody will call in.
Yes, please give us a call at 323-524-2599. People are commenting, but this question came through. How can I maintain or set healthy boundaries with a narcissistic coworker without escalating the situation or causing a workplace conflict? And I guess if it's a coworker, but I'll add on to that, like you said, if it's a boss, how do you even deal with that? Do you go to an upper management even, or?
Ooh, that's a tough one because sometimes HR is not your best friend
No.
because guess who's paying HR, right?
Right.
So they're not your best friend. So again, it goes back to, do you really want to be there? Is it worth it for you to be there? But the other question, how to deal with a coworker that's narcissistic that you have to work with, I would find the incentive for the commonality. So, for example, if they're not giving you enough time or attention, I might try the peaceful healing dialogue, which is something in my book, which you should all have by now. It's free. The PDF is free. Be the cause, healing human disconnect, and in there is the peaceful healing dialogue. So download it. So peaceful healing dialogue might sound something like this. So let's say the co-worker's name is Mary. Hey Mary, is this a good time? I'd love to chat with you. Maybe we could go get a cup of coffee. So if she's narcissistic, maybe you've got to treat her for the cup of coffee. Like, all right, invest a few dollars and get her attention. And then the peaceful healing dialogue often starts with something, it's like a sandwich. You put the positive in there first, and then you put the request or the desire for a shift in the middle, and then you close it out with something positive. So, um, hey Mary, I've noticed that you have a lot of skills in this area, and I really appreciate what you're bringing to the table. And I just wanted to express that to you, um, and say thank you for your skills in accounting. They've been very, very helpful. And then, of course, that'll be a little bit of a narcissistic um, win for the person, because who doesn't want to hear about how good they are? And now comes the sandwich part, and you could say something like, I also notice that sometimes when you're in your work zone, I don't have what's necessary for me to do my work, because I need more information from you, and I need you to share something that narcissists don't like to do. I'd like you to share information so that I can also enhance whatever the company's trying to accomplish. And then you might make the request, would it be possible? It would really, really help a lot if you can share with me your findings so that I could take it from there in a timely manner, and then do my end of the work. Would that be possible? I'd really appreciate it. Now you know that you're with a true narcissist if Mary says, why are you criticizing me? You should do this, you should do that, and you don't do your part of the bargain either. Okay, so now we're into defenses and breakdowns. So if you've got that person in front of you, you could just say, um, that's a tough one. That's a tongue tire. What do you say to a person like that? You could say, um, look, I'm so sorry that you feel like I'm not doing my end of it. That would be a different discussion. So you put boundaries. If there's anything that I'm doing that you feel that I need to improve on, um, let me know. However, in this discussion, I just wanted to address how much value it would be for me to receive information from you. And, you might want to double down and ask again. And if again they go into a tirade of you, then you could say, um, okay, okay, let's get back to work. And in your mind, say, this is not a person to have a conversation with. And you stop. You can't draw blood from a stone, right? I saw a quote. I have another question. Well, I'm going to make you call in. No more spoiling. Call in. Call in. Just call in. Could ask the person if they're willing to pick up the phone and call in.
So if you can call, please call 323-524-259. We'd love to hear from you.
Let's get into it. Let's get live. Let's dig in. You don't have to share your name. I always ask, what name would you like me to call you by, so you can invent a name if you want. But let's dig in. And So are you getting the drift, everyone? Are you getting the drift of how difficult it is to work with a narcissist, be married to one, be in a friendship with one? I would hesitate to call it a friendship. It's a one-way street. With a narcissist, it's always a one-way street. Now, one way to protect yourself is to always leave a paper trail. So if you're dealing with a narcissistic coworker who's trying to sabotage you, I would keep paper trail on that and email trail to the boss or your higher upper, because they may want to throw you under the bus and make it seem as if you're not doing your job, or make it seem as if you're not listening or not responding. And therefore, you don't want to open that door and give them the opportunity to do that, because they will, because we have a call. Thank you. Hi. Thanks for so much for calling in. So
And
see, that's what happens when I set boundaries. And what is the name you'd like me to call you by?
Cynthia,
Cynthia, thank you so much. Were you the one asking the questions?
well, I didn't ask anything online, but I'm the
Oh,
one that
okay.
just called it.
Okay, yeah, hi. Thank you, and thank you for calling in. So, how do you relate to this topic?
Unfortunately, too well. I
I'm
work for a
sorry.
narcissistic boss. I'm sorry.
So, I'm so sorry that you relate to it too well. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, not a good thing.
Yeah.
Narcissistic boss, very textbook for over 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm older,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned nothing from him during those 8 years because he has refused to teach me anything. So everything I've learned has really been on my own and through being very resourceful. I think part of him um, putting me into these situations where I am resourceful and successful at getting what I need is because he does want to see me fail so he can then pinpoint that one area that um, is an issue and say you did it wrong, you're disorganized, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're that.
Okay.
So over the years it's gotten much worse because they've let go of staff, and the staff that they've rehired all work remotely. So part of what he now expects me to do is I'm the only employee that has to come in. Everybody else can work remotely, and a lot of the tasks that they can't do from remote, such as having documents signed and different things, I'm the one that it's now become my responsibility, and he's the one that has to sign, but he also refuses to come in. And so therefore, any and every step of what I do, it's not the actual work itself. It's how will I accomplish what needs to get done, because he is such a nasty individual. And the other thing that he does is he forces me to I'm not going into exactly, I guess I could talk about what, so maybe it would be a little bit clearer what I do, but interact with an individual who doesn't necessarily work for us, whatever, he's a contractor, who is very narcissistic, abusive, nasty, and has said inappropriate things to me, meaning, bad language,
Okay,
hung
so
up on
question.
me. And
Okay,
he himself, in other words, I am in the middle of two narcissists who battle each other through me, and each one won't communicate what it is. They make me communicate
so
things
so you're
to
like
the
the
other
monkey
one.
in
But
the middle. So you're like the monkey in the middle, yeah?
so I'm the monkey in the middle.
Okay, so I have a question.
Everybody, of course. Yeah, go
Okay, I
ahead.
have
I'm
a
sorry.
question for you. So how do you, what is your secondary gain? How do you justify staying there? Is it the paycheck that you need? What is it that keeps you
It's
going?
right. I mean, first of all, I'm older. I'm 8 years older than when I started. I'm sorry I didn't leave um 4 or 5 years ago. Like now I'm, in the 60s. And I also developed an issue with one of my eyes, so I can't see well through it.
Okay.
So, I know my job. I know what I do. So I guess it's being older. And it's also the paycheck, but it's also the money that I earn too. It's not a starting salary, because I do wear so many different hats. So many different people were let go, and there were job positions that I now do. So my salary is more. So I don't. Again, if I was younger, and if I didn't have this issue with
I
my
get it.
eye, and I
I
could.
get it. So another question I have for you is what negative core beliefs does his and the other person's behavior and treatment of you activate in you? Because that's another part of how to deal with these narcissistic bosses is if you got to be there, you've got to deactivate your negative core beliefs because they will push your buttons. They'll push your buttons of inadequacy. They'll push your buttons of
Always.
anything. So what are the hot buttons that these people are pushing in you?
Um, the hot buttons that I guess that I don't know what I'm doing. They try to twist my reality. So, you said this, you said that, but the things that they tell me that I said, I never said. But then I start questioning, well, you know, I did I? But then I tell myself, no, I didn't.
There's a common
So,
word for that. So
I'm sorry.
there's a common word for that. Do you remember what that word is when somebody denies your reality and makes you feel crazy?
Gaslighting, constant gaslighting.
Exactly. Constant gaslighting. So, Cynthia, what do you think would be the best way? Give me a boundary or two that you have set within yourself, because it's hard to set boundaries with them. So, what are some of the boundaries that you've set within yourself? So, when they come at you internally, what are you doing? Are you saying, I'm incompetent, I'm too old, my eyesight isn't good, where am I going to go? Are you doing that number on yourself? Are you doing something that allows for you not to be as activated by what they're doing and saying?
Um, deep down, what has happened is because of this condition with my eye and getting older, you begin to question your memory for sure. Like you don't know, well, maybe I am a little bit like, forgetting and losing, my recollection or, um, but I mean, for the most part, I think I've worked so much on myself that I tried to tell myself that, I think you're doing a pretty good job. Um, but each time, and it's many, many times during the day. I mean, it is a battle. I mean, that I'm worthless and all these feelings. I don't think, um, but I do live with a lot of regret that I didn't get out sooner, and I do fear for my life and my health, because I can see, for instance, today I just left the office earlier because I felt a headache and I felt dizzy.
There it is.
Um,
Remember, I was talking earlier about psychosomatic disorders and the price
right.
that you pay um, in your health. And I do understand how difficult it is to replace a job in your older years and how difficult it is when you feel like your body isn't 100%, eyesight isn't 100%. But so let's take a moment to work on the internal world, because it seems like you're not going to leave the situation. You're not going to leave this toxic situation anytime soon, correct?
Most likely not correct. Yeah.
Okay, so what do we do here is we've got to create the inside environment to counteract the outside environment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that means that the minute you clock out, you've got to leave the job, but I don't only mean leave it physically, you've got to leave it mentally. And one of the ways that I think you can manage leaving it mentally is, can you commit to not questioning your sanity? Because they're great gaslighters. Can you at least commit to that?
I will work very hard at not doing that. I don't want to go down that path because I can see, I can see a bad ending to it. So yes, I will commit to that.
Okay, and let's see if we can commit to a couple of other things. So you can commit to clocking out, and maybe you could tell yourself something like, wow, they're great gaslighters. They're not paying me that much money to keep screwing with my own head. So I'm letting go. That's going to stay at work. Can you do that? Like, give yourself a reason why. They're not paying me enough to make myself sick. Okay?
Right. I do ruminate. I mean, to the point where I don't sleep. I get up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking and I'm worried. I mean, I'll try, but it's not an easy one because I keep thinking about it and going over it and getting
so
upset.
This is where, the expression that they live in your head and they're not paying any rent. Okay, so every rumination, every thought, is consuming your health, consuming your energy, your time, affecting your sleep, right? So again, this is where your own internal boundaries come in, and you start dismantling these core beliefs like, I'm not in my right mind, maybe I'm stupid, maybe I'm incompetent. Okay, so those are the panel 3 core beliefs that still need dismantling.
And those are the things that my mother told me as a child.
There we go.
So they tie in.
That's it. So what you do is you connect the dots to what your mother did to you, to what your boss or other people on the job are doing. And that phrase in my book. And again, I really want everybody to get a copy of my book. If you want a hard copy, go to Amazon. If you want the PDF free copy, just order it off of my request it off of my webpage, psychologicalhealingcenter.com. Okay, but there's a phrase that I really like, and you're reminding me of that phrase, which is identify it, not with it. They're really good at crawling under your skin and making you feel like you're nothing and nobody. So this is where you soak it in. Do you see that, Cynthia? You're soaking it in. So boss is giving you messages just like your mother gave you messages. What do you do with them? Well, you're identifying with them. You're absorbing them. So I'm asking you to look at them as old blueprints from your past, old core beliefs that your mother put in you. Can you at least identify it? Okay, so that's what I want you to do with it, is rather than go down this horrible path of identifying with it, maybe he's right, maybe I'm not that smart, maybe I'm missing some things in my older years, maybe he's right, my eyesight isn't very good. See, even if all of that was true, people still need to treat others with regard and kindness and respect.
That's true. That's true.
Right? So no excuse. All right. So I
Right.
would concentrate more on the way you're being treated than the messages that he's invoking in you, and take a look at that and say, well, you know, I've been here many years. I'm not going anywhere. The only path I have to travel now is to identify it, walk out of this place without an infection, a psychoviral
Yeah.
infection that goes in your head and starts spinning around in there and breaks you down. And that's your only pathway, unless you said to me, well, I've been here for 8 years. I've stashed away a lot of money. I'm going to invest it, or I'm going to look for another job while I'm keeping my day job, and I'm going to see what I can do about moving to another phase in my life. If you could do that, that would be great. But it's just,
Absolutely.
like I say, don't lose your day job. Keep your day job. You've got great benefits there, but start making other plans. And if you can do that, then that would be the best for you. But if you can't do that, at least you have to clean yourself from all the narcissistic doo-doo, so to speak, that
Right.
you're swimming in every day. And then the other thing is that you need people around you who are nurturing and loving, and weekends that are filled with health and exercise, and and people that you love and regard, and create those experiences so that these narcissistically wounding experiences are not your only experience with life. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
uh,
That is hard
that's hard.
to find those people. Yeah. I have
Okay.
had, I guess you can say, friends or whatever, that they themselves are narcissists, and I've had to distance myself.
So,
So, to start finding those people that are nurturing, I mean, I want to, and I'm trying. Yeah.
okay. Okay. I was
Um,
watching YouTube, and there was a great quote. Somebody said something like, "You can't change people, but you can change people." And I had to listen to that a few times. You can't change people, right?
right. But you
But
can change people. Right. Yeah.
you can change people. You can change them out for other people, right?
Correct.
Right? You
Correct.
can
Correct.
change the
Correct.
environment you're in. You can change, but in this case, you're not going to change your environment. You're not going to change your boss, and you're not going to
Right.
change your job. So that leaves you
Mm.
with an inside job, so that you shift your way of relating to what's happening with you, and you stop doing what the Freud number on yourself, and you stop treating yourself with unkindness and unfairness, um, and demeaning and devaluing and destroying yourself by buying into what the narcissist is saying. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it absolutely does. The thing is, I have a very, very hard time with the inequality,
Yes.
and I can say even injustice, like, I mean, the individuals that are remoting, I mean, it's not really that many, but I can see even on their computer who's working, who's not, and I would never go to, um, you know, the individuals, and there aren't many above me, and say, look, such and such, I don't see her remoting in. I mean, I don't want to even get involved. That's their decision to have this setup. But when I'm expected, to be there on time, to turn on their computers if they shut
Right.
off because of the
Right.
weather or
Okay.
whatever it is, send them their paychecks. They didn't get it. It becomes my fault. Something happened with the mail. It must be my fault. In other words, the inequality. And when I ask for a day, can I work from home? Like I need to
So,
save on the
so
commuting time.
Cynthia,
It's an hour each way.
okay,
No,
so
I'm
Cynthia,
told.
you're not gonna bring justice to this unjust situation.
Mhm.
Not gonna
Right,
do it.
right.
So stop expecting that from yourself and living in resentment because you can't do it. All you're there for, and I'm going to say this a couple of times to you, you're just
Okay.
there for the paycheck and the benefits. Okay. So
Right.
stop
Okay.
trying to make justice, stop trying uh, to stop living in resentment for how other people behave. It's not your job. Okay, you're not being.
I understand that, but what if I do need the time to work from home? What if, I'm not able, what if, I can't do what they want me to do because, you know, I,
Okay, so
each
that brings.
situation where I
Right.
help those that are working from home, I don't do what I need to do, and then I'm thrown off with my own work. So I mean, or I need, a day to work at home, and I'm not
Here's
given it.
what you do.
How do I cope with it? How do I handle
So,
it? Yeah.
so look, you're talking about a conundrum here. I
Mhm.
understand. You'd like to be treated with justice. What about me? What if I need a day? What if I need that? Granted, but it's not happening. So you have choices.
Mhm.
You can stay, you can leave, you can call an attorney and say, hey, my boss is not giving me fair treatment. Do I have a case here? You can, there are things that, but at the end of the day, I just don't see you leaving there. So I think you
Mhm.
have to stop fighting the battle. You just have to. And
Mhm.
I think a large part of your energy spent is on resentment. Like, how come they can and how come
Right.
why? Because
Right.
you allow them to, because you need the money, you need the benefits, you don't feel like you can get a better job. And so, at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility and say, I'm allowing this, I'm allowing that, I'm allowing unfair treatment, I'm allowing. And then
Mhm.
you say, okay, I'm allowing it because I need the paycheck and I'm not going to fight this battle. Because the battle is what's also making you sick, not just the
True.
injustice. Okay?
True. True.
So thank you for
True.
calling in and
Thank
just
you,
sit
Dr.
with
Judy.
my words, maybe listen to this episode. I'm sorry when I
You
interrupt.
just,
Sometimes I feel like I
no,
need,
not at all.
to make a point and bring the
Sure.
discussion to a learning experience. So that's why I interrupt. So hopefully we can glean the point out of it. And just remember that we are we are enrolled in systems that we don't like, and if we have to be enrolled in it because we deem that we need it so much, just don't make it your job to bring justice to it, because there's no justice to it, just paycheck and benefit. Okay, that's it.
Okay. Sounds great. All
Okay.
right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And so I think people are getting the drift of how difficult it is to work with a narcissistic boss or be with a narcissistic anybody. And so if you're stuck, if you feel that you're benefiting on some level and hurting on another level, try to mitigate the damages, heal your own wounds so you're not being triggered. For those of you who are not familiar, I created a video called Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. It's on my website, and the entire introduction is up there. So you can listen to it and see if it's for you. And it's a complete pathway to healing from narcissistic abuse so that at the very least you can develop some immunity. Okay, if there are no other calls, no other questions,
That's it for tonight.
okay, then I will see everyone next week. Good night, everyone.